Before the war, this was a village. There were homes and businesses. People lived and prospered. Now, it's a cursed place. Over 1.5 million people died here, most of them Jews. It's a place no one would wish to own or inherit. But since the end of communism in Poland, people are coming back to reclaim land their families owned before the war. And one of them believes she has documents which could prove that part of this death camp was built on Jewish land, her family's land. Zypora Frank was 12 when she and her parents came to Israel from Poland after the war. She grew up and raised her own family here. And like her sons and grandchildren, she's Israeli now. But there's a mystery in Zypora's past. She's inherited papers that suggest she could have a claim to Auschwitz. And she's decided to return to Poland in search of the truth. Zypora and her parents and brother survived the war by escaping to Russia in 1939. The rest of the family perished in the Holocaust. Once in Israel, they never spoke of their past. But just before she died, Zypora's mother told her that when she returned to Poland after the war, she'd reclaimed the family land. And part of that legacy was Auschwitz.
Now, these are the documents that were left to me by my parents that show the property in Poland. They are all in Polish. They are very old.
The documents that Zypora's mother had left her related to her wealthy grandfather's properties, including a tar paper factory in Brzezinka, better known as Birkenau.
This map shows the property in Brzezinka, in Birkenau. My grandfather, Joseph Meltzer, he built there the factory for tiles made of tar, and it was a huge factory, and they used a lot of land, and they had a private railroad going in, and they had ovens, special ovens that they boiled the tar. But my mother never told me about it. She never told me that she has this property.
All her life, Zypora's mother kept her inheritance secret. She was consumed by guilt, because she believed the land she owned had been part of the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp, where her own family had been killed.
My mother's life was affected all the time by this secret, by this knowledge, because this concentration camp, the death camp, it's the most atrocious camp that was ever built. And it was built on her land. She felt guilt about it, and she didn't want me to go and visit it, and she didn't want me to know about it.
But Zypora wants to know. She is returning to Poland to reclaim the property and confront the past.
I want to know the truth. I want to know if it does belong to me or it doesn't. I want to know the truth. How did they confiscate it? How did they build it? What did they do? I want to know the truth. I want to know it's mine.
Before the war, Zypora's family lived near Krakow. There was a large Jewish population here. Most of the shops and over a third of all buildings and industries were owned by Jews. There was widespread anti-Semitism. When the Germans invaded Poland in 1939, all Jewish property was taken or abandoned as the Jews fled or were imprisoned and killed. Zypora's grandfather had been a wealthy man. As well as the factory in Birkenau, he possessed a large house and land in neighboring towns. During the 42 years of communism, it was almost impossible to recover property lost in the war. Now it's become easier, but few claimants possess as much proof of ownership as Zypora. She's anxious to know what's in the documents, and particularly if she really does own part of Auschwitz.
I feel nervous about going to this lawyer because I don't know how can I talk to him. You know, it's like to talk about day to day basis about proper things, about things that are to establish its documents. It's going to the government places. It's asking for compensation, and it all relates to people's life and to their death. And I can't think about how it will be. Dzień dobry.
Marcin Jagielski. Proszę bardzo.
Dzień dobry. Jestem Zypora Frank.
Zapraszam.
Dziękuję bardzo. Moja mamusia, co się nazywała Rywka Jakub, z domu była Melcer i to wszystko jest jej.
To jest tyle, co pani zostało dokumentów tylko?
Tak, wszystko byli w Rosji. Jak myśmy wrócili, to moi rodzice położyli te wszystkie, moje polskie nie jest tak dobre.
Nie,
położyli
bardzo
te
dobrze.
wszystkie
Ja
dokumenty, i na mojej mamusie imię. Ja myślę tak. I to nie jest
To
możliwe.
pani dostała.
Tak.
To...
Jak moi rodzice umarli,
Znaczy,
to
co to
tak,
jest?
to dostałam.
Józef Melzer,
To jest mój dziadek.
dziadek pani,
Tak.
tak? Rób papy dachowej i
Tak.
płyt izolacyjnych. Ta fabryka była, tak? Tym się zajmowali?
Tak.
Natomiast są tutaj te wszystkie nieruchomości, o tu jest bardzo ładnie, bo one są tu wyszczególnione zbiorczo. Jest Chrzanów,
Tak.
2 nieruchomości, w Trzebini 1 i w Brzezince 2.
Ja.
Z nich jakby nie wynika zupełnie ani jedno słowo, co się dzieje teraz, gdzie te nieruchomości w ogóle są położone. Dlatego trzeba najpierw to po prostu sprawdzić. Być może, że coś tam się działo, może Skarb Państwa je zabrał, może w ogóle je zburzono, no nie
Ja
wiem.
chciałam Cię zapytać,
Trzeba to sprawdzić.
właśnie jak to jest Brzezinka i według tego, co ja wiem od mojego tatusia, moja mamusia nie mówiła o tym, że Birkenau,
Tak, obóz.
ten lagier to był budowany tam, dlatego, bo mieli,
Na tym terenie?
tak mi powiedzieli,
Wie pani
tam będzie
co,
tam
nie wydaje
muzeum,
mi się.
tam będzie tam muzeum,
Nie wydaje mi się.
Nie?
Dlatego, że to są dokumenty już powojenne, 1946 roku.
tak.
Cały teren obozu jest objęty, to jest miejsce pamięci, po prostu tam nie ma prywatnych terenów. Także władza w 1946 roku by nie zwracała tych gruntów w posiadanie mamy. To po prostu było niemożliwe. Także dlatego mówię, że to jest gdzieś być może koło obozu, na pewno nie jest to bezpośrednio w granicach obozu w Oświęcimiu.
How did you feel when the lawyer said it wasn't part of the camp?
Very ambivalent. You see, because it was a relief, first of all a relief, and then I think it's what a pity, because they have wasted, my mother has wasted, as it is, she wasted her emotions, her life by keeping silent about it, but not talking about it, but feeling so guilty about it when it wasn't on her land. So I really don't know, but I still think it is.
We are on the way to the museum of the biggest Nazi concentration camp, Auschwitz-Birkenau. First, you will meet your local guide from the museum and you will go to see camp number 1, Auschwitz 1. You will see the whole exhibition and it will take you about 1 hour and 45 minutes.
I know for sure that my grandmother, both my aunts, my niece and my uncle, all of them, my cousin, not my niece, my cousin and my uncle, all of them died there in Auschwitz because that's what's written in the documents that we found. But this connection, that they were burned there, that they were gassed there, that they lived there even, and to see the place and to know exactly that they were there, that some of them, my family was gassed there, it's very painful.
This block, the first one to the right, is the death block.
By fleeing to Russia when the Germans invaded, Zypora and her parents survived the Holocaust. Only when they returned to Poland did they discover the extent of what had happened to the Jews. Auschwitz was originally a Polish military barracks. It became a concentration camp in 1940. An extension was built at Birkenau a year later. Over 1.5 million people were brought here. Most were killed immediately. Some were worked to death as slave laborers. Few survived. The museum at Auschwitz-Birkenau was established by the Polish state in 1947 on part of the original site. About 600,000 visitors a year come to witness what happened here.
Ściągano kosztowności, biżuterię, złote zęby, tak więzień napisał. Z włosów ludzkich robiono liny do okrętów, sznury, materace, szpilki, włosiance, dywany. Zapamiętajcie, 3 zalety mają głosy.
Look at this, and you remember what happened? She was right, I think. We shouldn't do anything about it. I don't know if this museum can teach the children. I was looking at them, they were not so much impressed by the horrid stories, by everything. Just listened. It was like any museum to them. I don't know if we can teach a lesson about it. I really have a feeling that she was right. These documents should be just in the museum.
Two miles from the main camp are the ruins of Birkenau. It is here that Zypora believes her grandfather's tar paper factory once stood.
I remember my grandfather's factory. I remember coming to visit him. I remember sitting on his knees. I remember him hugging me. I don't remember the factory. I remember buildings and a lot of in order. Nothing was in order. You know, some pieces of equipment put and everything, and a huge yard. I remember. The irony that maybe it was on Jewish land that they built this camp, this concentration camp, the death camp. And on the same land, they were executed, on their own land. I really hope it's not mine, it's not ours. But my parents believed it's theirs, so there is some sort of conflict inside me. It's very, very strange feeling, you know, that I hope it's not mine. It's too atrocious. I hope it's not mine.
The next day, the search begins. Zypora's decided to look for the other properties mentioned in the documents before returning to Auschwitz-Birkenau. The lawyer has sent his assistant Martin to accompany her. They begin in Scharnow, 10 miles from Auschwitz. Zypora lived here before the war. She's looking for the family home and the land surrounding it. First stop is the Town Hall Surveyor's Office.
Dzień dobry. Możemy wejść do pani naczelnik? Pani jest z pochodzenia Żydówką. Chciałam się dowiedzieć, ponieważ wie, że po roku, po II wojnie światowej i przed nią, jej rodzice i dziadkowie byli właścicielami nieruchomości położonych właśnie tutaj w Szanowie. Pani chciałaby się dowiedzieć, gdzie te nieruchomości się znajdują i ewentualnie w jakim są stanie.
Jeśli Państwo mi pozwoli, to ewidencję prowadzimy nieruchomości w pokoju 58, no wypadałoby tam przejść, byśmy od razu mieli wgląd do dokumentów, do naszej ewidencji.
Naturalnie, bardzo dziękuję.
Bardzo proszę, ja sobie tylko poproszę.
Nie?
Nieruchomość. To jest to. Proszę zwrócić uwagę, tak, jest to nieruchomość położona przy ulicy Kościuszki.
Kościuszki,
Tak, Kościuszki 10. Tak, jest zabudowana budynkiem. Budynek. Tak. Z naszej orientacji to mieści się tam przedszkole.
This property is in the management
Yes.
and administration of government department of education.
I see. To są stare odpisy z
Naszych
1939 roku.
tak.
Melcer Józef i tych nieruchomości, ta nieruchomość składała się jeszcze z takich parcel.
My grandfather is written.
Yes, you're right. Perhaps it will be possible to find more.
More lots.
More
To
lots.
jest 230 lat,
I'm getting richer and richer by minute.
A trip to the courthouse will establish who's the registered owner of the plots.
Tutaj jest własność Rybka z
Melceru, tak, Jakubowo.
no to tu jest w naszym ciągu.
Yes, that's my mother. Yes, Melceru, that's my mother. Ja
Mamy
Melceru.
sprawdzoną jedną nieruchomość,
tak.
a to pisemko właśnie 284.
47.
To jest inna książka.
Inna książka, przepraszam. Ta nieruchomość została przejęta na Skarb Państwa.
It was expropriated by the state treasury.
By the State Treasury.
Skarb Państwa.
Aha.
To jest ten wniosek i to jest dokładnie przejęte na Skarb Państwa na celem chrzanowskich zakładów materiałów ogniotrwałych Stella w Szanowie.
Oh, so they just confiscated the land, took over the land to build a factory. Okay, I understand. And it was done like this? It was done like this?
It was.
It was, okay. Teraz on potrzebuje to powoli.
The house in Kosciuszko Street is where Zypora was born and lived before the war. Her grandfather built it in 1929. Zypora was last here as an 11-year-old child when her mother came to reclaim the house.
10. To jest 10. I co to jest?
Does it look like it?
No, because it has verandas here. It has verandas. And here there are no verandas. Maybe from the other side. Now, is there any chance that I can reclaim it if it's governed, if it's administrated by the government?
Yes, because this is only administration.
Yes.
It wasn't expropriated, for example, by the
Yes.
government.
It wasn't confiscated, you mean?
It wasn't confiscated.
Yeah, I see.
Uh,
What's it in there? What's inside?
Inside there is a kindergarten, but
Yes.
the owner is your mother.
The house still belongs to the family, but the buildings on the adjoining lots were taken by the state.
This lot,
Yes.
or lots, were the property of your family,
Yes.
and it was expropriated by the state. And I think these two buildings.
Yes.
There is this factory, or
Yes.
building of administration of this factory.
And this house,
This building, this is a private property.
and this one can't be claimed anymore.
It's impossible.
But if something is confiscated, do they have to pay for it?
This is not the same as confiscation. Expropriation is for a public purpose. In some situations, some terrains, areas are
Yes.
useful for state or
Yes.
for public
And
purpose.
they can just take it like this without paying anything?
This purpose must be public.
Yes, but this is
Everything else
houses.
important. Like
So
that.
maybe if you go to the court or to look, Mr. Magistrate
It's
will
more
go.
difficult,
It's,
but
I see, but it's still
can be
possible.
checked.
Okay.
Zypora is one of only a few hundred survivors or descendants who've tried to make a claim. Thousands of Jewish properties remain in the registers unclaimed. People who do manage to claim their buildings back can make money from them, but there are conditions. Residents can't be evicted and their rents are regulated. As landlords, they must pay for the building's upkeep. For many, it's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
But so far, Zypora's been lucky.
Your property,
Yes.
I think so, because this map is
Yes.
very old and bad. This is the beginning of your property.
Yeah.
These garages are on your lot.
So it begins from here.
Your
Yes.
family divided this bigger lot
Yes.
into two
Yes.
to give the opportunity to go there. The
The other
second
one.
one lot.
Oh,
No.
so the other one there is also.
I think so.
Okay. That's good. Now nice garages. So it must be from this fence,
I guess. From
yeah, up to the other building. And this lot doesn't belong to me. Okay, I don't need the trees.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go to court now
Mm-hmm.
with all the papers and
Mhm.
then to claim it. Garages. So I own a road and garages. We'll put a gate there and we'll ask them, everybody who goes into the garage, to pay something. And I think that will be nice. Because it's money, that's real money. It's not like they're getting checks or getting to pay, rent and to have to look after the building and you have to renovate it and everything. This is pure money. How much do you pay for parking here? We don't have parking.
It depends on place. This is a good place because near banks.
So how much can I charge them? 1 zloty, 2 zloty for an hour?
Why not?
Okay, let's try it.
Zypora is happy with all that she owns so far, but now she must return to Auschwitz-Birkenau. Zypora and Martin have tracked down all the properties, except for the factory at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Over these past few days, they've struck up an uneasy friendship.
Martin, did you tell your family about it?
Yes.
What was their reaction about it? What do they think about it? Or the whole properties, about me coming
Jewish
back
properties.
and claiming back the property like the kindergarten, the house in Chrzanów.
Some people in Poland think that it's been too many years, that it happened 50 years ago.
Yes, but I was not allowed to come until a few years ago.
I know, but it would be impossible after 50 years to give back everything what was taken by communist governments, because the change would be so big to change whole country into the same as it was before the Second World War.
Martin, do you think it evokes anti-Semitism? Jewish people coming back and trying to claim their property?
Many people living in houses, Jewish houses. Many people possessing lands with Jewish names written in registers. I think they are afraid of Jewish people coming from Israel and other countries. German, Jewish, or Russian.
We met yesterday a Polish girl that she married somebody from Ireland, and they came here with the whole family to claim the property that she has. So she's Polish, from Polish origin. So the feeling will not be the same as I am coming to claim it?
Yeah, Jewish people everywhere in every country are regarded as rich people who having a lot of money, a lot of real estate, factories. As one man from Chrzanów told me, Jewish had everything before the Second World War, and in many cases this is true.
The town hall in Auschwitz is where the land registers for Auschwitz and Birkenau are held. This is the most important part of Zypora's search. It's her fear that she'll discover her grandfather's property was part of the concentration camp.
Nie, tutaj. Przybywamy w takiej sprawie. Pani przyjechała z Izraela i poszukuje miejsc, które, czy też działek nieruchomości, które były własnością jej rodziny. To jest wykazane na starych wyciągach hipotecznych. To jest jedno. To są 3 działki i jeszcze 2 znajdujące się w innym LW.
Poprosimy. Ja bardzo przepraszam, ale muszę oddać ten.
Te parcele użytkował OZNS, ale w tej chwili operatem pomiarowym są te parcele zniesione do jednej parceli.
Czyli były w użytkowaniu OZNS-u, Oświęcimskich Zakładów Naprawy Samochodów. No i na podstawie operatu wywłaszczeniowego przejęli grunty.
It means that on this land, when there were the buildings and everything, there is now a factory of cars.
Nadal tam istnieją zakłady?
I to znaczy istnieją. Ja może w międzyczasie pokażę, jakie to są zakłady, te OZNS-y. To jest obóz oświęcimski jest tutaj.
Tutaj.
Tak, tak, tutaj jest.
So that's the
Bo tu jest
Birkenau.
ulica Jaracza, jednostka
Brzezinka.
Oświęcim. Oświęcim, Brzezinka jest zupełnie. Tu jest droga do obozu na Brzezinkę.
Birkenau,
Tu jest
Auschwitz.
Birkenau, tu jest Auschwitz.
Auschwitz
Tak, Auschwitz.
concentration camp.
Obóz Auschwitz, tak? Auschwitz jest tu.
Auschwitz concentration
Tak,
camp is
tak.
to jest blisko do Auschwitz concentration
Tak,
camp?
po prostu przez ulicę tylko.
It's just one street between.
It's another side of the same street.
So everything is.
Czyli obóz koncentracyjny byłby
Tu jest jednostka wojskowa, tu poniżej.
to jest
Jest taka jedna, bo wszystkie materiały są w WBG. I tutaj jest na mapie klasyfikacyjnej.
This is the same as
It's this one. Yeah. Yeah. That's the plot. Yeah, that's the same. I can see it. Yeah. Oh my God.
these
Yes.
streets.
Yeah. This is just a road between the concentration camp in Auschwitz and this lot. When they made the museum, they maybe moved the museum a little bit, but maybe it was on my land, the first, because when she got it in 46 back, she said that it was standing this land was on her, this land of hers, the camp was built on it. So maybe the museum, they just moved it to make it smaller because the road was going through there. And now there's a factory that they are making or repairing small cars, I don't know. To jest Oświęcim, to jest Auschwitz. Here's the railroad.
Yes.
These are the tracks. So there were tracks going into it.
Is where this factory.
Only a road separates Zypora's grandfather's land from the present-day Auschwitz Museum. Neither Zypora nor Martin are sure where the original camp boundaries lie.
It's huge.
And your property is located under this.
What do you mean underneath?
I mean that building was built on your...
The old building was destroyed and they built another building.
Yes, you're right.
And the other border was the road to Brzezinka, to Birkenau. So now we can go to the left.
Somewhere here. Tylko zajrzeć, co tam jest.
I tam są strażnicy jak
Strażników można zagadać, tak?
Pan tu długo pracuje?
39 lat.
39 lat. I to zawsze była ta sama fabryka?
Tak.
Pan jest tutaj z Oświęcima?
Niedaleko.
Niedaleko. To pan może pamięta, przed wojną tutaj była...
Przed wojną nie pamiętam.
To była fabryka patodachowa?
Przed wojną tu nic nie było. Tu były pola uprawne. To Niemcy wybudowali, ale znaczy nie jest w takim stanie jak teraz, bo...
Ale zaczęli to budować Niemcy, tak?
Niemcy. Jakieś pociski. Ja tego nie pamiętam, za młody jestem.
So the Germans built this factory. He says that the Germans built this factory and
to produce ammunition.
To produce ammunition. So it changes all the time. It changes.
Confused by the old man's recollections, Zypora wants to see what anyone else remembers.
O, wie pani, my jesteśmy tu ochrona, nie stąd. Dyrektor nie pozwolił, nikogo sprawy nie pozwolił.
A nie pozwolił?
Bardzo przykro, dyrektor nie pozwoli i my nie możemy...
Ja rozumiem. Bardzo dziękuję panu.
Do widzenia.
Dziękuję panu. It was really shock when I saw the factory and I saw how close it is to the camp that is now to the museum. And I looked at it. It still made me feel it's a bad feeling. I don't feel good about it. I can understand my mother coming here after the war. And when she saw this factory, the barracks were there and the chimneys were there, the ashes were there, and she could see how it was, what happened there. I think it all together affected her so much. The guilt about not saving her parents, her family, about just fleeing, taking me and my brother and just running away, fighting for her own existence and her own life. And then coming back, and she found that there's nobody left from her family and everybody died in the camps. So she must have felt terrible, I think.
Thousands of Jews returned to Poland after the war. When Zypora and her parents came back to Charnov, they thought they were coming home. But many Poles didn't want the Jews back, reclaiming their houses and businesses. Hundreds of Jews were murdered, culminating in a massacre of 42 men and women in a town 60 miles from Charnov in July 1946. Zypora's family decided to flee Poland forever.
We were driven out from here. It's not that we left of our own choice. We had to leave. The survivors, like me, that are coming now, or the second generation that are coming and claiming, most of their families were killed here. But still, the belongings are theirs. This house, I think I claim it. It will have problems. But this is government administrated, and so government took it over, and government can give it back, or make all sort of arrangement with me. I'm not thinking about money. I don't know. I'm just, first of all, thinking about claiming it, putting it in paper, on paper, black and white, that it's mine. Just like my mother did. She claimed it, and it was hers, so it's mine now.
Zypora's been asking passers-by if anyone remembers her grandfather. No one does.
A pani są z Chrzanowa, prawdziwy z Chrzanowa?
Wprawdzie z sąsiedniej miejscowości jestem, ale z Chrzanowem się łączy od czasów gimnazjalnych, to tutaj znam.
I tu było dużo Żydów przed wojną?
Bardzo dużo.
8 000 Żydów
Tak.
i 4 000 katolików.
Aha, to było więcej Żydów niż katolików
tak.
2 razy temu.
Tak.
Dwa razy tyle.
A najgorsze to było to, że opanowali całkowicie handel.
Ci Żydzi.
Tak. To tylko jeden katolik miał sklep z materiałami. A tak to wszystko było opanowane przez Żydów.
A w szkole byli też, to byli i Żydzi, i Polacy, wszystko razem, prawda?
Tak, tak. To myśmy mieli w szkole zawsze 3-4 Żydków, do dziś ich pamiętam, sympatyczne chłopcy byli.
A stąd, kiedy Niemcy przyszli, co się stało z nimi?
Kiedy Niemcy przyszli?
To by...
O, to od razu się sytuacja tak zmieniła. Ja nawet chciałem wykorzystać okupację, do jednego Żydka chodziłem na francuski, bo niemiecki już znałem, a chodziłem na francuski. Gdzieś, jak wiem, czy na 4. czy na 5. lekcji wpadł, wziął, zabrał, już po profesorze było. Taki sympatyczny był ten. 6 sukcesów.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Informacja.
Dziękuję bardzo. Bardzo dziękuję.
Ja tu przed wojną nie mieszkałam, to
pani
nie
nie
wiem.
wie.
Nie, to nie mieszkałam. Ja mieszkałam daleko.
To bardzo dziękuję pani. Dziękuję.
No, do widzenia.
I can understand the problems it causes. People come and claim. Even now when I was talking to this couple and they told me that the Jewish people were so rich, and he called the Jews, he didn't say Jews, he said Żydki, it's like Yitz. So it's a nickname for, and it sort of made me feel, well, even from those times or those days, it's still there in him, and he still resents me for coming back here, you know, and claiming the house. So the resentment will always be here. But I'm going to claim it. Also the garages and the road. The problem is the property in Auschwitz. This is a problem that I have to think about.
Zypora and Martin return to the Auschwitz Museum. They need to establish once and for all whether the factory site was actually part of the concentration camp. They've asked one of the museum's historians to look up the property in the archives.
Patrząc na to, więc możemy zlokalizować. A chciałam jeszcze Pani zwrócić uwagę, bo być może to, sądzę, że to jest dosyć istotne, że właśnie numer 10 to jest miejsce, w którym prawdopodobnie istniała kiedyś papownia Melcera, zaznaczył, prawda? No więc jeśli porównamy sobie, no więc numer 10,
tak.
Oczywiście również mamy. Przy kolejnym budynkiem była niewielka fabryka papy
Należała do Żyda, na Tanzon. Tak, na Tanzon.
Tak.
To właśnie, to było, wspólnik to był, który postarał się
o wybudowanie drugiej bocznicy kolejowej.
Tak, on miał bocznicę właśnie, bo mieli tam, kolej tam przyjechała, przyjechała tam.
Na miejscu tej fabryki papy, którą Niemcy zburzyli, w 1943 roku przejęty przez Weichsel Metall Union Werke. To też były zakłady zbrojeniowe. I Niemcy
To
zlokalizowali
teren
sobie...
obozowy to wszystko to
tak,
było.
to należało, to był teren...
wszystko
Tak,
obozowy.
tak, to był tutaj.
Bo ten muzeum jest teraz tutaj,
Tak,
a
tak,
znaczy to całe było...
my jesteśmy tu. Tak, to był teren przyobozowy, który wchodził również właśnie w skład tak zwanego Interessengebiet. Obejmował 40 km². I tutaj również, tam była właśnie zlokalizowana fabryka. Także, ale jest to jedyna wzmianka w dokumentach, które posiadamy o tym. Żadnej innej na dzień dzisiejszy nie ma.
Sorry.
Okay.
To jest pierwszy raz, że widzieć to napisane, bo byłam wczoraj w Szanowie i się pytałam ludzi i nikt nie pamiętał. Mi się zdawało, że może mi się zdawało wszystko, że to wszystko nie jest prawda. Moje mamusi rodziny tutaj zmarli. To ironiczne, nie ktoś mówi ironia. Ironia z tego, że to na żydowskim on the Jewish land they built it and it belonged to Jewish people and all the atrocity and they themselves died here.
According to the records, the car plant was built on Zypora's grandfather's land, but during the war, it housed a huge German munitions factory within the camp perimeter. The Union factory used over 2,000 prisoners, mostly women, as slave laborers. They produced detonators and grenades for the German war machine. Zypora's worst fears have been realized, and now she has to come to terms with her inheritance.
Somehow, I always believed in the back of my mind that maybe it's not true. Maybe it was just, they were just telling me some sort of story, maybe they just imagined it. I don't know, I didn't want to believe in it. And even if I talked about it recently and I said that I own a part of it, I still thought maybe it'll come out. It's not mine, it'll be a relief to me. But now that I know it's true, I can understand why she didn't want to claim it. I can understand why she didn't want to have anything done with this. She didn't want any compensation for it. She didn't want any money from the Germans. My mother didn't want it. I don't want it.
Unlike her mother, Zypora's determined not to hide her Auschwitz legacy. She's decided she wants to claim the other properties. But Auschwitz is a different matter.
The truth is, when the first time when we came to his office and he told me that it can't be, that my land is there.
Pani mówi, że kiedy po raz pierwszy pani przybyła do biura i dowiedziała się, że to nie może być muzeum.
I was glad.
Pani się cieszyła.
Because it makes me feel terrible owning this land. But if that's the truth, I think if you can advise me what to do so it can't be changed and it will be for always like this.
Nie można w tej chwili bezpośrednio
Ja rozumiem.
panią ujawnić jako właściciela. Na dzisiaj pani właścicielem tego terenu nie jest.
Mamusia nie jest właścicielem.
Nie, bo jeżeli jest decyzja o wywłaszczeniu, można spróbować przywrócić w księgach wieczystych pani nazwisko jako spadkobierczyni matki, jako właścicielki tego terenu.
Tak, tak.
To można zrobić.
Tak.
Ale od razu trzeba się zastanowić, co można zrobić z tą fabryką. Bo będąc właścicielem, pani musi w jakiś sposób uregulować stosunki. Czy wynająć ten teren, czy go sprzedać, czy zażądać, żeby ta fabryka z tego terenu poszła, żeby tam w jakiś sposób inny go zagospodarować.
I can't take money for this, you see, and because my mother was so against it. She said it's money for blood, and she didn't want to touch it, so I can't. Birkenau just told him, I wanted to be acknowledged that it was a Jewish property. It's very important to me.
Dla Pani jest bardzo ważne, żeby to było ogłoszone, żeby było wiadomo o tym, że to była żydowska własność.
Znaczy to jest wiadome. W jaki sposób to ogłosić, to nie wiem. Znaczy wiadome jest, bo są te dokumenty, są te księgi.
No, in the museum they didn't know about it. It's important for the history, for my own feeling.
Nazwisko pani mamy będzie zawsze wpisane, bo w tych księgach, które pani widziała, to nazwisko pozostanie. To, że mama była właścicielem tego terenu przed wojną, że była właścicielem tego terenu w czasie wojny, wtedy kiedy był tam obóz, to, że była po wojnie, że sąd jej zwrócił ten.
Let's leave it like this. The most important issue in coming here was to know the truth, to establish the truth. Does this atrocity belong to my family? Am I connected to it? That's what I wanted to know. That was the real, because the other property, I feel good about it. I feel I should claim it. It's mine. I should claim it. It's like a money in the bank that somebody left me, and I think it's mine, so I should claim it. But I wanted to come to know the truth. The whole trip was about Birkenau, Auschwitz. All the time lurking in my heart, of my mind, of my feelings was this, where is it? What is it and where is it? I wanted to know the truth, but maybe now I think maybe it would be better if I didn't, because it affected me so much. I feel so connected to it. I feel as if from now on, wherever I think about Poland, about Auschwitz, about the Holocaust, it's Zypora and Auschwitz. I know it's not rational. I know it's not rational, but that's the feeling that I have. This camp was built on Jewish land, and on the same land, in the same camp, my whole family was gassed and shot and burned. I don't have to feel guilty, but I do. I feel an emotional connection to this place, and I know it will be forever. I don't know why it was so important to me to establish the real truth. As if my whole life was going round and round it, and now that I know the truth, I'm myself again.